Voters across the country heading to the polls in what will amount to the first referendum on Donald Trump's second term.
I got a really simple idea. How about we elect the Jersey guy?
Your job is to vote tomorrow. Your job is to vote tomorrow.
The energy in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, and beyond getting higher. President Trump is not on the ballot, but his agenda most definitely is. A new CNN poll finds most Americans are not happy with how things are going with Trump back in the White House. The president's approval rating now at its lowest point of his second term. It sits at just 37%. A full 63% of Americans say they're unhappy with the job that he's doing. Those are numbers that we last saw after January 6th, 2021. And on a number of key issues, from the economy to his handling of the government shutdown, the president finds himself underwater with the American people. So the question, will we see that disappointment reflected at the ballot box tomorrow? Democrats are certainly counting on it. 1 year almost to the day since their crushing defeat last November. They're hoping the big wins tomorrow can help them finally take the fight to President Trump.
I think the real problem here isn't who's talking about Trump. The real problem here is who is not taking on Trump and who is not committing to serve the people of New Jersey.
The answer is that we stand up against the chaos and the division that we see coming out of this administration.
They did not expect California. They did not expect all of you. They thought we were going to write an op-ed, have a candlelight visual, maybe do a rally. They poked the bear, and the bear is poking back, and we're going to get out there and win.
All right, let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel's here. CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams, Republican strategist and pollster Kristen Soltis Anderson, CNN chief political analyst, former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod, and former Trump campaign advisor David Urban. It's a great team for this day before Election Day. And if it's not enough, on the left side of the screen is the text chain with additional analysis. This today coming from our reporters doing the hard work on the campaign trail. They're going to tell you what they're seeing out there. David Urban, you were laughing there as we were listening to Gavin Newsom at the end. He says they poked the bear. Is what's on the ballot in California the biggest race tomorrow night?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I think it will be a major accomplishment if Newsom gets the California voters to reverse their previous position on this topic. But I do think for him it's a very important race. A very important referendum, not a race. It'll elevate him and give him a lot of credibility and provide a lot of energy behind Gavin Newsom. But I think the most important race clearly is going to be the New York mayor race. It's going to have huge, tone. It's going to have overtones, and it's going to, you're going to have my good friend David Axelrod is going to sit here and agree or disagree. But you have.
I think
I'm going to do one or the other.
So you have Spanberger. You have this kind of like blue dog Democrat in Virginia and Spanberger, and then this Democratic socialist in New York. And so on Wednesday morning, Democrats are going to wake up with like a headache in terms of both sides of the party claiming victory, both sides energized. And then we're going to see which way the party goes in 2026, right?
First of all, let me say, let's give credit where credit is due. It's not going to be, at the end of the day, Gavin Newsom who persuaded Californians to change their mind. It'll be Donald Trump. And but in terms of I was saying to Elliot before the show, what I anticipated for tomorrow was Democrats were going to win all these races, and that Republicans who don't want to read it as a negative verdict on the president will start saying, well, they elected a socialist. Now he's the face of the Democratic Party. What they're missing, and I think what is a through line between these races, is that the issue of affordability is one that Democrats have seized on, and it's a great vulnerability for the president, and you see it in this polling. So to that degree, I think the Proposition 50 out there in California has tangible impacts for next year in terms of the midterm elections, but in terms of atmospherics, I think that is a message, the affordability message is the one to take away here.
Yeah, well, let's look at what approval ratings have looked like in heading into past midterm elections. Ronald Reagan back in 1981 sat at 49%. You can see I don't have to read them all to tell you that Donald Trump sitting at 37 is pretty significant. Kristen Soltis Anderson, you read these kinds of numbers all the time. If we put up our new CNN polling on Trump's job approval, just 28% of independents say that they approve of what the president has been doing. Now, obviously, his number's a little bit higher among non-college voters, but still just 40%.
Yeah, and look, this poll is significantly more negative than other polls that are out there, which isn't to say that it's not right, but it is to say, like, let's put it in context. If these numbers are true or even partially true, it ought to be a warning sign to the White House, because a lot of those voter groups that you just had up on the screen were critical to Donald Trump's victories, his coalition, the unusual group of people that he put together to remake the Republican Party in a new, more populist direction, where they're upset with institutions, they want things to change. If I'm giving the White House advice, if we get to the end of this off-year election and Democrats have a great night, on the one hand, some of that is just how this works, right? Barack Obama wins in 2008, Republicans are lost in the wilderness, and all of a sudden they win the New Jersey governor's race with Chris Christie in 2009, right? Being the party out of power does sort of give you more momentum in these off-year elections. So it wouldn't surprise me if Democrats don't do pretty well. At the same time, those job approval numbers for Trump are bad enough and have dipped enough where I think this affordability question and this little bit of like, let them eat cake, we're doing a ballroom, we've got members of the administration taking private jets places. Like, I think that that's the kind of stuff that breaks through in a moment when people go, I have to start thinking about Christmas shopping for my kids, that I think the White House needs to pay a lot more attention to that issue.
Yeah, and it's funny, David mentioned the conversation we had. I'll mention the conversation Kristen and I had right before we came out here, which is that the idea that parties who are in the wilderness often look for different ways and different paths forward. And we were talking about Republicans after Mitt Romney, and there's always a question of, do we tack to the middle or do we go to the base? Now, different people can win in different parts of the country, and the mere fact that both Zohran Mamdani is likely to win and Abigail Spanberger is likely to win doesn't mean that any one of them, I think, is the future face of the Democratic Party. It's just, it's a big country and a lot of different people win different races.
Yeah, but also remember how that post-Romney identity crisis resolved.
Yes.
It resulted in Donald Trump saying, what if we do both? What if I reach independent voters and I fire up the base?
So that's a really important point,
choose.
because, we tend to sit in this business, we tend to sit on the back of the bus and look at what happened in the past.
Which is a huge mistake often.
And it could be here as well. We're sitting here in 2025, trying to figure out what's going to happen in 2026 and 2028. 2026 is in view. 2028 is a long way off. And the candidate of the party is going to define the Democratic Party. And I can't tell you as I'm sitting here now who that person will be.
Well, so I want to show a little bit of the campaigning that Zohran Mamdani did over the weekend, because obviously there's been all this conversation about his ideology, the way Republicans are going to attack him as a democratic socialist. But part of why he's taken off is simply the way that he is doing politics. And you could really see that. He hit the clubs over the weekend. Watch.
Are we ready to beat Andrew Cuomo? Are we ready to win a city we can afford? Are we ready to make history?
So maybe only in New York City, David, but what do you make of that?
I think people were in high spirits, that's for sure. But listen, I think one of the things that people have also missed about Mamdani, who's campaigned on affordability 100%, but he's also campaigned with a kind of joy and free-spiritedness and kind of optimism. Youth, at a time when our politics are so angry and grinding, and I think that people have been attracted to that as well. It's good to be a happy warrior when everybody else is grumpy and angry.
Yeah, look, those are great visuals. You got to question you've done this. How many people in that room are actually registered to vote and will vote? They make great videos, but the effect on the electorate may be minimal. And the tough part for Mamdani comes when the day after the election, when he has to get the keys and has to start running the city.
That's for sure.
Right? And he's made all these promises.
But the early vote, just to answer your question, the early vote reflects the fact that voters under 29 have already cast more votes than they did 4 years ago, and this is before election day.
And so it'll be interesting to see, because those people expect free buses, groceries, they expect Mamdani to deliver on all these things, and he's going to have to go to Kathy Hochul and say, please, Governor, will you help me? do these things,
No,
and she may
it's-
say no,
It's a big
and then
jump.
he is going to be left saying all those things. What happened to all these people in those clubs are going to say, what happened to all those 3 things you promised us? And he's going to say,
No, you know
I
what?
guess I couldn't do it.
I mean, the question is, does he make earnest and substantive efforts to reduce costs, even if it doesn't come in the same form that he's suggested? And does he do the basics of being mayor competently and well, or is he consumed by ideological items? And my read of him is that he wants to be a great mayor. And so, we'll see. But I think he's going to get the opportunity.